Hi everyone, my name is Hopabo and you're welcome to the Unleashed Show. Today we are here at Pastor Tim's home and I am not alone. I am here with my colleague Sharon.
Sharon Nassos is my name, and you're welcome to the Unleashed Show. We are here with Pastor Tim Gawaya at his place in Kaukubunga. My name is Sharon Nassos, and we are here chilling out with a pastor, rally driver, businessman, a farmer. Oh my God. Pastor Tim, you're very welcome to our show. We are glad to have you. We've been excited.
We are so excited. We want to know everything. But I think to begin with, please talk about yourself. We want to know who is Pastor Tim, introduce yourself so that we know who we have on the show today.
Yeah, my name is Gawaya Tim Mati, and I am a father of 5. I am married, and I'm an accountant, and lately I am a pastor. And if I'm telling you about my background, I was born in a place called Kaliro. Kaliro is in Busoga. My father was a teacher, my mother was also a teacher, so they were living by that time they had been posted to that place. So I was born in Kaliro, and then of course, migration of parents who were teachers. We migrated to so many other places, but finally we ended up in Jinja, where my father was the headmaster of Victoria Nile School. And my childhood was partly in the village, and my father was a little bit very cultural, that every holiday we had to go to the village. But technically we grew up from the village because that's where our mothers were, as our father was roaming around. The safest haven was the village. So then around primary 4, we migrated to Jinja and since then I've been in Jinja, and went to Kira College Butiki for my O-level and A-level, and then finally I went to Makerere University, where I studied a Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting. I'm the 5th born of 8. My father was polygamous, so I'm living out the other side. But in terms of my mother, we are 8. Lost one of our siblings this year in March, but so I have 2 sisters living, and the rest are brothers. What I was looking up to become, because we are living in the village, there were few cars in the village, and the guys who were drivers were truck drivers and tractor drivers and probably bus drivers. So the biggest inspiration at that time was to become a driver. When we came to Jinja, my uncle was a bank manager in one of the banks in Jinja. I think by that time it was Barclays or something, I don't remember. And so I was inspired to become an accountant. At one point, another uncle was a pilot, so I was inspired to become a pilot. I didn't become a pilot, but eventually ended up becoming an accountant. Yeah, so that's, but along the path, that's what happened.
Tell us a bit about your childhood challenges.
My childhood challenges, one of them was, I would say, poverty. Poverty is a big disease, and living in the village with not much inspiration, less access to water, to clean water, less access to good education, initially were some of the challenges. But one of them eventually was polygamy. Polygamy is, I told myself that whichever way I go, even when I don't believe in God, maybe, one of the mistakes I will never make is to get two women and have 2 women running at the same time. That one I said no. So I said the competition, the witchcraft, the grudges in witchcraft, that's a no-go for me way from the beginning. Yeah, so that was one of the challenges while growing up. And of course it comes with polygamy comes with less access to resources and priorities. A man has to make a decision whether to prioritize the other family or the other one. And incidentally, it happened that we were on the weaker side, so we never got much. But eventually, we grew up and became icons. One, when you have less access to resources and poverty is around you, you tend to seek God more. That's what happens. One time I visited my grandmother, and I came back and they told me that our mom is a Murokole. I didn't know what Murokole meant. Somehow our mom found her way into Christ, into becoming born again. And I came from my grandmother's village one time, and then I come back home. Probably I was about 6-5 years. Worked with our grandmother back home. And they said our mom had become a Murokole. I did not know what it meant. Later on it made sense. And our mother was like the gateway for us, for salvation, to enter the family. And probably that's why I eventually became a pastor. Yeah. And one of the ways in which God made a way was that because we had less access to resources, our mom was born again. We had to pray more and lean on the side of God. So somehow God made a way, and we studied and finished, and we got good jobs, we got good businesses and good careers. I became a pastor when Passover Harvest Church of Bishop Herman Sentamu started. We said I think it was about the year 2001. That's when I became a youth pastor in Passover Harvest Church. But 2 years later, I left the country, so I had to, career kind of took me out of the country, and I had to leave. But later on, I pursued career for a long time, and until one time when a woman of God I used to relate with died. How does the story begin? When I was at Kira College Boutique for my secondary school, I had a friend. I said he's still alive today. I have a friend called Pastor Semper. Right now he's a pastor also in Jinja. It's called Pastor Semper Paul. He was our fellowship leader in the Born Agains at school. So he led us to meet. He said, there's a lady down the hill who prays very well, and she want you to learn how to pray. So we used to visit that lady for a long time. And one of the gifts that she had was the gift of prophecy and word of knowledge. And most people want to know the problems that they know, that they already have. So I was one of the victims of that part, of that search of knowledge and search of wisdom. And when I went to university, we were many people who used to come to her house for prayer. But some of us, about 5 of us, stuck together with her. Even when we left to go for further studies at university and other colleges, we stuck with her. So we used to support her financially. As one of the lucky guys who got a job immediately, I left senior 6. So I used to support her financially. And other people also used to support her financially. So it so happened that along the way, she started a church. When she started the church, we were supporting her still financially. So I became one of the strongest financial arms of her ministry. And I knew that somehow we'd do many things. God had told me that we'd do a lot of work in Busoga in terms of the gospel. But I never imagined myself being a pastor. I imagined myself being a corporate arm of finances to her ministry. So when COVID came in 2020, it so happened that after COVID, I came in on September 19th, went for quarantine for 7 days, and eventually, I think around the second week of my staying here, the government opted to open space for churches to go back to fellowship. So I called her and said, Mama, I'm coming to minister at your church. Her name was Jessica Nambi. And she introduced me to the church. I preached. After the preaching, she said, do you know this person? Some of them, of course, had seen me before. Some of them were new. Some of them said yes, some of them said no. And she said, this one's the general overseer of this ministry. And for me, I'm not going to be around all the time. And I said, this is my son, but I'm also her mother. So I'm also her mother and pastor. And she introduced me to two pastors who already knew, of course. And she said, this one is that I'm ministering with, and this one is I'm ministering with. And they said, stand up. So they stood up and she said, Papa, these are your pastors. The next day she died. That is also an emotional part I want to remember, unfortunately. Sorry? Like what musazi w'ensawo. Olaba where people have put their monies.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so so the lady died on the next day, and I was like her eldest son in terms of her household. So I had to take over everything. I had to take over the church, her household, and I became their mother because the husband is still available. So I became the mother of the home. I became the pastor of the church, and we're making 2 years very soon. And it's been quite an eventful journey, but a very interesting and happy journey. Eventually, I've always seen myself as a church planter. Church planter in terms of financing the gospel, and not necessarily becoming a mainstream pastor. And part of that comes in, like, part of the training that you go through life takes you through that. You preach once in a while when given the opportunity. I was a youth pastor, so I pastored at that level. And so once in a while you have to preach to the main church. So that was part of the training that I had undergone through. Unfortunately, I had not been to Bible school, but I hope to go there one day. But part of what takes me, part of the journey was a little bit chaotic, I would say. As we began, let me give you probably the real life, how it happened, the story. So I told these two pastors that, okay, Mama is gone. I'll be checking on you once in a while, when I get time. And if you need financial assistance, I'll give you the financial assistance. So, and I told them, none apart from, I don't want you to allow anyone on the pulpit apart from the two of you, unless you have my permission. So they said yes. So that week I told them I would be back in 2 weeks. Then they called me on Wednesday and said there are some friends of the church who want to come and strengthen the church. I was like, do you know them very well? He said yes, they are friends of the late, and they want to come. So I said, okay, no problem. I sent them some money to entertain them and take care of them. But then they called me again on Friday and they said, you have to come. And I was like, but why do I have to come? I'm driving from Kampala to Jinja. That's resources wasted. Number two, I'm looking at visiting you once in a while. Meaning that if we have to get ministers, let them come, not duplicate efforts and resources. So I told them, it's okay, I'll come, but do I really have to come? He said, yes, because you have to know the friends of the ministry. So I said, okay. I picked up a friend of mine, Pastor Walter from Entebbe. We went there, and we found some two ladies who had come to visit. And when they visited, we never got to meet them. So we came back on Wednesday, on Saturday. They still were busy. We sat around, they were still making themselves busy. So we just knew that they were not interested in meeting us, because all we needed was to say, this is David, or this is Paul, or this is Susan. And that is all we needed, and we never got to that place. So we got to, when our car got a problem in the night. So my friend in the morning went to repair the car, I went to the church and I said, in the first service, we'll pray the first service and then leave for Kampala. We prayed the first service. The second service, still I stuck around. It's like they didn't give us an opportunity to still meet the people. But during the service, the ladies were very much negative about the ministry of this lady who had died. I thought they were friends of the late, but unfortunately, they were all minimizing the work of the late. So I got angry. And I was like, no, this is not how ministry should work. And a person you have known for a long time, you believe in them, they have prayed with you, you have passed through circumstances with them. You don't want somebody demonizing them in their church before even 7 days elapses. So that's when I made up my mind to stay closer to the church. And around that time, they were saying the pastor who died was Illuminati. And I said, what does Illuminati mean? They said she was building during COVID. But I was like, that is very ignorant of you. Why? Because I was a tither to that church, meaning I was giving them a significant amount of money. Part of my family was giving them significant amounts of money. And the pastor was building apartments in her, like next to the church, to help her get some income. So people were questioning, how does she get her money? And that is one of the challenges that the church is right now has to face with. That the Antichrist has come with a message: whoever prospers is Illuminati. Whoever breaks through is Illuminati. Whoever is different from them is Illuminati. That word has come up, but it's destroying the church instead of building the church. And when you go to a new place as a pastor, they say, when you have a little bit of money, they say that pastor, because you are different from them, probably earning better than them, speak another language that they don't speak, they say you are Illuminati. And along the way, I had to dismiss one of the pastors and the head of the prayer team. And I said, because you are demonizing the person I knew was on the correct path, the person I've learned from how to pray, you don't have a place here. So I had to let them go. And but I had to fill the gap of where they have been. So yeah, we have grown from that level to another level along the way, and we're about 130 people currently. Full-time ministry, the way I understand it is that a pastor has to leave all they are doing, including income-generating projects, to come and serve God. But I do not believe in full-time ministry, though. Why? Paul was a tent maker, and I believe that a pastor should have a source of income for their family. And one of the sources of conflict in families is money. And one of the sources why pastors' children have not made it in life and have not followed Christ is because they have seen misery all their lives. Why? The church is not an income-generating project. It is for edification of the believers and of the whatever, but of the church. But pastors' children have suffered a lot, much more than gaining. Why? Because even what the pastors have, when the people come in to visit, you are the one to leave your bed for the visitors. You are the one to eat the last piece of the chicken for the visitors. And you find that pastors' children have gone away from God because they see that that life is a life of misery. But why I not leave what I'm doing? Incidentally, it so happened that God makes a way through and knows the pathway of everyone. I have businesses in many countries, and they run without my presence. That's how God designed it. That by the time I became a pastor, I was doing business. And those businesses are still running. Of course, without my involvement, my active involvement, of course there is a little bit of decrease in the amount of revenue because I'm participating less, but I still have an income stream. And along the way, I've been able to set up other small income generating projects and which can sustain the church, like farming. I'm into farming. I'm into rearing of animals, and yeah, so that's the idea I have about full time, that go and serve God, but have a side hustle where you earn for your family, so that your wife will not run away because you don't have money. On top of serving God, I still have another way where I serve God, and I've been serving since 2015, and I was serving in motorsport, and I'm still serving because I may not. I stopped driving in 2021, but I went into the management. I'm one of the competitor relationship officers, what they call a CRO in competition. I'm one of the CROs in motorsport. So when I went into motorsport, it was a passion. Like when I was still a young man in the village. By that time, we had the East African Rally, which was passing through, of course, our region. And I said one day I would, instead of running around cars, one day I would drive a car when it wasn't part of, even when it wasn't visible that I would one day have money to drive a car. So then, while at university, a friend of mine, Joseph Sembajwe, said, let's go and watch motorsport. We had, by that time, there were not so many rallies around. That was the time of Jimmy Nkambwe. Jimmy Nkambwe was a motorsport personality. So they used to organize so many rallies. Almost every 2 weeks, we had a circuit somewhere in Garuga or in Mukono or somewhere. There was a rally either in Masaka or in... So I became so much involved in motorsport that one event made me to even get retakes at university because of the passion. So one day I said, one day I'll drive a rally car again. And it still didn't occur to me that I would still get into active motorsport. So I get into motorsport and I identify myself as a preacher. So one of the things that you didn't miss on my car was John 3:16 and John 14 verse 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. You do not miss those ones. Those statements were enough for me to preach the gospel and identified myself as a born again in motorsport. And I'll tell people, come, I pray for you that you will succeed. And indeed, they would make it. But through that life of motorsport, I failed to finish an event for 2 years. 2 years was a lot of failure, but I just said, when I thought I would quit was the time I would fail. And I would say, I can never quit as a failure. I will quit motorsport when I have made it. So 2 years down the road, I never finished a single event. However slow I would drive, I would not keep the car either on the road, or I would not keep the car in good mechanical condition. So I didn't finish for 2 years, but when I started finishing, I started finishing as a winner. And I have several trophies that I boast about in my household. And I have a name in motorsport. That's the most exciting part. Yes, for 18 years now, I'm married to one wife, and we're blessed with 5 children, and they're all vibrant. Eventually, while watching other ministers and their failures, their stories, where they have been successful and where they have failed, I've learned one thing, that one, you need to make time for yourself as a person. I've seen pastors dying because of stress, because of too much work. Number 2, you have to make time for family, because I've seen pastors' children who have gone to drugs, who have gone into drinking, who have really been wasted. And number 3, you have to make time for your wife, because I've seen pastors who have lost marriages because of ministry. So I've learned to balance basically all those 3. One, that my wife had to encourage me that Pastor Jessica is dead, you have to make time for the ministry. That was a good point, that I'm not pushing myself, but somebody is pushing me on the other side to say, go and serve. So I'm a little bit covered on that side for now. And the ministry being young, less than 2 years old, I'm trying to tend to spend more time there. I do 5 days in ministry and 3 days, like 4 days with ministry and 3 days with my family. I visit my children. The good thing is that, I visit my children at their places of where they go to school. So, I've managed to balance that way. We are friends with my children, so we go out. I love the beach. I love water. Actually, most Sundays when I finish preaching, I go to where I can find water and hang out at the beach. I also get a hoofer and put it on my shoulder and go do. So I'm still youthful, and I still love life, the good life. And I never believe that ministry is boring, no. And the most interesting part of ministry is that you get to meet people. You get to build people. Like, one of the experiences that I have is that I have, in the community that I serve in, I have young men who I have brought closer to church. I believe that Jesus called us to be, come as you are. You come as you are. So I have picked people, just handpicked them from their drinking joints and brought them to church. And they're still coming to church, even when they still drink, even when I still encourage them to drink. But I've got one of them who accepted to come and live at church, and that one has left alcohol. So those are things that you feel, you feel those are, that you have achievements, tangible achievements. Somebody has got born again, left alcohol, is now a church boy. And the whole community is like, if Monday changed, then everybody can change. So I believe that when we come to Christ, everybody comes with baggage. And that baggage may not instantly go away. It may gradually go away. And that's what I believe that, that's why I believe that some people are still struggling up to now with some things for years. They've been struggling with them for years. And one of the things that I believe in miracles, but I also don't believe in a gospel of chitwali. Take it right now in the name of Jesus. I believe, one, in knowledge, acquiring knowledge, that people should acquire knowledge to do what they do with knowledge. There's a platform of knowledge that is required in ministry. Number 2, I believe that a knowledgeable person, that's why people should, that people should go to school. That's why even with all my education, I want to go to Bible school. I want to inspire people from a standpoint of knowledge, not ignorance. Prayer has a limitation. You can pray as much as you want, but if you pray from a point of ignorance, then you're praying, you're not gaining. One thing I believe in ministry is at the time when God calls you, because I believe that David was anointed, actually, because Samuel poured actually oil on David, anointed him as king, even when he was still shepherding sheep. And he eventually became king after a long time. So I believe that you may have a calling, yes. Like, I knew that one day I would serve God, not necessarily in the capacity I'm serving in right now, but I knew that that was my destiny, that I would be whatever, in whatever style I would serve God, I would still serve God eventually. So there's always that time that God anoints somebody or appoints somebody, but there's the time when he executes the appointment. So the execution may take time, but we have to stay with God. Because when I left Passover Harvest Church, I told my pastor, I'm going out to Rwanda and I'm going to to plant a church. I don't know what my pastor thought, but I had some fire. So when I went to Rwanda, I was looking around for the best place I could plant a church. Eventually, as I was praying, that kind of evaporated, and I changed focus. I didn't want to plant church anymore. And I think that was God speaking to me. And I would tell you that I was half-baked. If I'd planted a church, it would have failed in probably 1 month, or maybe if I had made it, it would have made it to 1 year and not beyond that. One, financially, I was not ready. Spiritually, I was prayerful, but not ready. My management skills were not necessarily the ones that I have right now. My experience, I had to sit under somebody in order to learn. So I believe that all ministers, my encouragement to all ministers is that take time under somebody. Learn from that person. Even Prophet Samuel had to learn from Eli. So learn, sit under somebody's arm, learn until the time when that person will release you to the world, and then you'll be ready. I believe there's a right time for somebody to go into ministry than rushing through. And the anointing has a limit. You can be anointed, but you need knowledge. You can be anointed, but you need the experience of ministry. Some things are learned by experience. God takes us through experiences, through the furnace. So we learned some things practically. Some mountains are not moved by prayer. No, they are moved through the furnace. The furnace takes the mountains away, and you'll never forget what you have learned through the furnace. What I would call an achievement for me would be that, one, I've seen people transformed. I've seen the youth transformed through my hands. One of the youth that passed through my hands is in the UK. This young man sends me gifts. He comes to minister at my church, and much as I did not intend things to be the way they were, somehow he's grateful that I impacted him, even when I didn't give him money, when I didn't pray for him directly, but I inspired him. Just there are people who have been designed to inspire others by just your presence in somebody's life. By your presence in somebody's life, you may not necessarily see what you're having, but what you may be carrying would be a covering for somebody. You may inspire somebody to become who they would be without you saying a word. So that's why I believe that in ministry, everybody in this world has been called to do something. You have a gift that inspires somebody, that changes somebody's life. Even without you ever saying a word, you are inspiring somebody. So keep your salvation, keep inspiring, keep living around people, keep putting people together. Money should never be the motivation of anyone. Because if you work for money, if your motivation is to get money, then you will fail. One, failing to get time for the church, failing to get time for the people. That is number one. So money is not my major motivation. So if it comes, well and good. If it does not come, well and good. But I also always believe that God will always bless the work of our hands. So somehow God puts it through, and like that. But on the other side is that the balance of this thing would be that knowledge is very important. Pastors need to go to acquire education, the real education that the classroom education is important. The Bible school is important. Why? You need to learn how to manage people and how to make people. You need to learn how to create a management team, that you don't have to be the counselor all the time. There are people who are there who are better skilled counselors than the pastor, and they can run the show. There are people who are there who are better managers, and they can manage more than the pastor micromanaging. Like on a Sunday, I never know. I walk into church, and I am not concerned about how the church was prepared, but yet I come in when the church is perfect. The tiles have been wiped, Everything has been set in place. Why? Management. Those are management skills we acquire through education. So that's what I would say about that, that you have to empower people across the board to be who they can be, build people to their next levels. For example, for me, I as a person, I think I'm wired to build people, to make people to reach their own destinations. I'm a Moses of some kind of sort in my community, that's what God has assigned me to be, that I will make people, I will inspire people to become what they want to be without necessarily me trying to be what they are. For example, I have anointed people in my church who pray better than me, who have better spiritual vision than me, but I inspire them to build on to that which they have. I inspire them to, like, if I see that you are going to become a future pastor, I will align you towards that side. I say, God is calling you to be a pastor, but you need knowledge, for example. You need to read the word, for example. You need to understand how to manage conflict, for example. You need to reduce on your anger, for example. Yeah, so that's, a pastor should see themselves as a bridge for other people to walk on to reach their destiny. And in that, align yourself to encourage other people to manage with you, to co-manage with you, and to pray with you and live life with you.
The corporate people.
Forgetting about God and what
when that pastor died, Pastor Jessica died, is when I discovered that death is real. And I discovered that hell and heaven are real. And all of us have either choices, whether to, as in either choices on the platter, whether to go to heaven or whether to go to hell. And how you manage your life is dependent on how or where you're going and the choices you make. The time this pastor died, she was 56 years old, very strong. She had no serious health ailments. She just said, I'm not going to be around all the time. Make sure you preach the gospel. And the next day she died. That led me to think that, oh, this life is not permanent. We're going somewhere, all of us. And at that time, even young people can die, even middle-aged people can die, is what I discovered. So that takes me to the corporate people. I was living my life. I was driving rally. I was driving rally cars, and when you drive rally, we drive for fun, we drive for fame, we drive to connect with other people, we network with other people. It's nice to be in the limelight. It's nice to be before a TV camera. It's nice to be on radio. And many of our young people have climbed the corporate ladder. It's nice out there when you're shining, when you're giving presentations, when you are appearing in the newspapers. It's nice. It's all godly. It's nice to give to the church. But above all, what do you remember that one day you are accountable to God? There are many young corporates in church who are living an average life. They're giving in church, but God wants more than the money. God wants the heart more than the money that we give to church. And God has hidden the secret of our destiny, that nobody knows the time they will die, the time that He will say, it is time for you to come back and be accountable for your life on earth. Nobody knows that time. But when somebody gets money in the corporate world, they would either shift from their current church and go to another church which understands their language and their status and their level. And when they begin that path, they're also crossing to get the other part of fun. They want to live like other corporates are living. They want to probably go to an apartment which is better than where they're living in. And they also want to have live-in boyfriends and live-in girlfriends, still coming to church, still giving to church, but they are still living another life copying the life of other corporates out there, which has made many young people get lost in the world, even when they're in the church. So my encouragement to young people is that as you're making that money, remember that heaven and hell are real. As you're making that money, remember that we are accountable, and Jesus is about to come back. And nobody knows when Jesus is about to come back. Nobody knows when he or she will die. Nobody has that moment. So young people, get connected to Jesus and get connected for real. And many of your limitations are because you're living an average life of Christianity. But people who are broken through the life of Christianity are people who have gone out there deep into the Word, deep into prayer, deep into fasting, and deep into everything. For me, I still pay tithe, and my tithe goes to the treasury. Much as I finance the ministry, probably 99%, I still give my tithe, I still give my offering, I still give my first fruit. When I get my harvest, I bring it to church. Actually, one of the times what I did, I told the Christians, I said, you give me every day. You give me maize, you give me matoke, you give me blah, blah, blah. So now, all of you go into my garden and get 5 cobs of maize. And that was my first fruit. That's how I gave it. I said, this is to God. Let me give it to the people I am pastoring. And so I believe that every pastor should pay their tithe. And one, in the case point where a pastor is financing the church, they should learn to be to be accountable. That get a treasurer who handles everything. There you'll be on point in everything. That even the person who wants to help the ministry will see the level of accountability that you have, and they will be encouraged to give or to support because you are also accountable. I believe that we are being called to change the world and to impact the world. And if you can't change your environment, then you have a problem. If your environment contains you, then you better go back to the starting point, to the drawing board, and say, let me redraft this thing again. So I go to church and preach while putting on jeans. Of course, the first part was like, our pastor has died, but will this pastor from Kampala pastor us very well? Will he visit us? I still visit them. Of course, that's not my major strength, but I visit them. I empower my ministers to visit them. But I also I've not changed the ideology that I don't change who I am. For example, one of my gifts that I've been given by God is that I've been a giver. I'm a giver. Even outside church, I'm a giver. And some people have criticized me and said, that church, he has members more than us because it is a money church. He gives them money. You see? The community does not give to their people, but they want you to stop giving to their people. They're same people. You see that? So I don't believe that a minister should be changed by the environment. They should change the environment that they're living in. And that's how I come to have some parties with the community, and we impact the community like that. I believe that the church is an agent of change. And the agent of change would mean that we are not beggars. We're impactors of people. We're impactors of communities. In the community where I pastor, we have been able to fund a road construction. And that has changed the perception of ministry and the perception of people, what the community would think about Jesus. Jesus came giving bread, and we have come in as givers. We have come in as people who impact communities. So the church, I would encourage pastors, please give. We want money, yes, our projects need money, but let's first give and impact people. The world should know that Jesus is not poor. Jesus is not broke. He has the resources. And whichever way, as we believing, let's always believe to impact people more than them impacting us and more than the world impacting us. Let's impact them positively. Let's give and give and give. We give love, we give finances, we give encouragement, we edify, we exhort, basically. Incidentally, I have not changed my personality. I've been who I am, and I'm still having the same positive habits that I've been having, the same leisure time. I'm still the same person, the same social person. I'm very social, and I never like being the boss. It's kind of weighs too much on me when I even try to pretend I'm the boss. So I talk to people normally like I would talk to anyone, and I find myself, probably that even pulls people towards the church to say, this pastor who has money can even talk to us. They sometimes think those who have money must be boastful and arrogant and probably bossy. But my personality has not changed. I go to the beach when I want to. I go to ice cream and eat ice cream when I want to. I go to motorsport when I want to. So basically, ministry should not change the personality of the person. Be original and have the same positive vibe that God gave you. Incidentally, people love positive things when they come, but also let me give you an example of what one of the things. For example, when I came to the church, they used to go to the river to baptize, but I don't believe in exposing myself to a river for baptism. For example, what if a crocodile pulls up somebody's leg? What would I say? So I incidentally changed their perception and said, we are going to go to a swimming pool for baptism. We pay for those swimming pools per person. I pay for them, incidentally, and much as it is like making them babies and pampering them, but it's nice. And also in terms of relations, I believe that pastors should relate with their congregation, and we live a normal life, a real community life, a real life. For example, I sometimes call my congregation to say, we're slaughtering a pig. For example, we're going to have lunch on the other Sunday, or the last Sunday of the month, for example. We meet there and congregate. We have a football team, which is in Division 1 in Jinja. We go and support football in Bugembe Stadium, and we shout, we support our team. Even when we lose, we still support them. So I believe life should be normal. The person who is spiritual should also be the normal person, without pretending, without changing their personality, without changing their lifestyle. Lifestyle for me is always the same. I put on my jeans, go and preach. I sometimes go in my Lugabire, go and preach. I put on a suit, go and preach. So whatever I feel at that time is positive for me, I will do it. And they have come to live with me. I put on shorts, by the way. On Saturday, I put on shorts and go around the church. We play football with the youth. And seeing a pastor putting on shorts, sometimes be like, hey, our pastor is putting on shorts. He should be, But that's a normal life. It's life, and we must live it the way God ordained it to be.
Wow.
That's
Hope.
amazing.
I never knew that pastors could also go to the beach.
I know.
Oh my
ice
God.
cream.
Yeah, so he goes to the beach, he's a farmer, he's a rally driver. Wow, such a great inspiration. And thank you so much, Pastor Tim, for coming through for our Unleashed show. Yeah, we've had a lot today. You've really, really impacted us. You've really blown our minds, and you've given us the other side that we can pick up from. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Banange Hope, I think our generation really needs to hear this, and I believe our viewers, you've had a great time with us today, and you've learnt a lot. Personally, my take home is we should avoid polygamy, because when you have a polygamous family, you cannot get enough resources. Like, you have to divide resources for this house, for this family, which is not good. And as Christians, we should look forward to portraying a good picture in terms of family and in our marriages. So young people out there, if you ever think about crossing one leg from this line to this line, it is really wrong, as we've heard from Pastor Tim. Yeah, so let us really try to work on that, and we shall have great families and marriages as well.
Sharon, personally, my take home is
Yeah.
there's something Pastor Tim that said that really stood out for me. He said, be original, be you. Make sure that you are impacting the community around you. Make sure that you're impacting your friends. That let your mere presence in people's lives make a difference. So to the youths out there, to the young generation out there, make sure that you are impacting the community, you are changing the people around you, and they're not changing who you are. So thank you so much, our lovely viewers, for being on. Please keep staying on. Give us feedback. Which pastors do you want us to host? And we shall definitely bring them onto the show. Thank you, our lovely viewers, for being onto the show. Tune in again next time. Same day, same station, same time. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.